got the look.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know the name, you know the voice, you know exactly why I'm here. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You've heard it hundreds of times because we've only done hundreds of episodes. Never thousands. We'll get there eventually. I'm the microphone messiah. My tag team partner on the line is the Canadian Destroyer, BT, Brandon Tanguma, and this is our top 10 favorite wrestlers of all the times. Not just who we think, oh, you know, he could be in my top 10. No, this is a locked-in list. This is a locked-in list from Brandon and myself. Brandon, are you excited for this, man? We've done this before, but, you know, for the people who aren't going to dig through the archives, this is just for them.
I'm so excited. Just can't hide it. If you guys are listeners of the podcast, you know who my top 3 should be. Now, the order of that top 3 might change from day to day, but the other 7... that one was a little harder for me to really decipher because there's a lot of wrestlers that I really do like, but I just don't consider them like my all-time favorite wrestlers ever, and it was just kind of hard for me to scramble through that entire list and put it all together.
Yeah, man. I completely understand you, man. You know, there are guys that aren't in my top 10, and they'll be like, "What? How is he not?" I base it off of guys that I grew up watching. You know. An honorable mention, he's not on the list, but I'll give an honorable mention to the Dead Man, The Undertaker. We're gonna talk more in depth about it on the Bulletcast on Thursday, but you know, Last Ride Part 5 comes out, basically a retirement, you know, so honorable mention. You know, the more commemorative years of Taker's career happened before I started watching and while I was an infant, but you know, thank you, Taker. Hell of a run, man. Quick thoughts on the Dead Man before we get into this?
Fantastic career. He's also on my honorable mentions because last time when we did the top 10 matches, I did not realize that we were doing honorable mentions. So this time, Philip, I came prepared with my honorable mention list.
Oh, let's hear it if you have some.
Well, these are the people not on my list, but I like them a lot, and a lot of them are going to be the New Japan guys. So we got my boy Ishii, you know, big man crush over here for Tomohiro Ishii, Kota Ibushi, Kazuchika Okada, Triple H, The Undertaker, The Young Bucks, and Eddie Guerrero. So I know Eddie Guerrero might be on your list if you're going with your childhood, but those are my people.
How is Hunter not in your actual top 10? What?
Because there's other people on this list that I enjoy their work a little bit more and have fonder memories of.
Just tell, is Sean on the list? Is he on the list? Yes or no?
Philip, he is higher than number 9 on my list. So
okay. Oh Jesus, God. Oh man, Woo.
But my number 9 might also hurt you.
Oh God, you know. Look, man. I'm not gonna shy away from it, ladies and gentlemen. All the people on my list have been WWE champion. Yep. So that's that tells you a lot how much of a corporate shill I am. Oh, with that being said, Brandon went first last round. I'm gonna go first this time. We're not doing video this time because my light blew out. So I'll add some, you know, for the video portion on YouTube, some pictures, and for the audio and video, I'll play my person's theme song. Brandon, he can do the same if he wants, you know. Because if I just do it, then it's going to be awkward, possibly. I don't know. But, ladies and gentlemen, my number 10. Jeffrey Nero Hardy. The Hardy Party in full effect. I mean, it's simple, guys. Jeff Hardy, he was eccentric, he was different, he's the charismatic enigma. I grew really fond of Jeff. I think, was it like that 06, 07 run with the Hardy Boys? I'm like, I mess with Jeff, this is dope. You know, then obviously he had to go away because of substance abuse issues, but he came back in 08, had that feud with Umaga, R.I.P. to Umaga, and then just started that run, that chase for the big one, the world title that he never was able to capture. You know, when he had those really good matches with Triple H, probably some of my favorite series of matches in late 08, and then Armageddon 2008, December 14th, he finally wins the big one, finally becomes WWE champion. It was awesome. and then he loses it a month later, and then he goes on to have a feud with Edge and CM Punk for the big gold for that World Heavyweight Championship. And Jeff racked up 3 world titles in his career, and he's looking for another one before he really hangs him up. But I'm a Jeff Hardy guy, man. Cutting up my mom's socks or my socks and whatever, making the armbands and then doing the dance, and I was all into it, dude. Love Jeff Hardy to death.
So the other podcast that I do, Curveballs and Chair Shots, if you'd like to go check it out, you're more than welcome to. But my co-host Dominic, Jeff Hardy, if he was to do his top 10, might be number 1, probably number 1. And for me, I enjoy Jeff Hardy. As a kid, I liked him, but I understand why people like him. He's colorful, he's the daredevil and everything, but just for me personally, he never really was that guy for me. I mean, as a kid, I think I enjoyed him a bit, and then as I kind of grew older, I think I maybe appreciated Matt a little bit more. Maybe it's just my older brother bias coming into play, but I definitely understand why a lot of people like him. Just for me personally, he just never clicked like he did with some of the other people.
No, man, it's okay. There are guys that I like them, but they don't click with me, like a Kazuchika Okada. I'm just kidding. I like Okada. I do. I like Ishii more, but I like Okada.
We like them thick boys out here.
Exactly. Because we some thick boys
with 3 C's.
Hey now, and 2 K's. Yeah. All right, Brandon. What about you, man? Who's your number 10?
Well, just like you, Philip, I guess I'm a corporate shill as well, because 9 of my 10 wrestlers on my list, I guess you can call them WWE champions, but the only person that is not a WWE champion, not even is in WWE, probably never will be in WWE. I had to do it. I had to put my man, not your man, Kenny Omega, number 10. Probably, now that I'm looking at it, could have thrown AJ Styles up on the honorable mentions as well. But Kenny, my favorite wrestler in New Japan. I loved what he did. He's kind of the reason why I got into New Japan and dove into it and loved it as much as I do. And just love his work all the way around. I've been a little critical of what he's been doing in AEW. I'm still holding out hope that he'll be able to pick things back up. But as of right now, I love him. Number 10, I thought it was the perfect spot to where he can still has room to jump up because his career, pretty much everybody on this list is kind of cemented and their career's pretty much over. But I think Kenny's the only guy, kind of the current day guy on my list that still has a lot of room that could do some great things in the future.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've said it multiple times on this show. You look at Kenny Omega's career, the highlight, the real trajectory of it is Wrestle Kingdom 11, January 4th, 2017, until Wrestle Kingdom, 13? 2019. So yeah, I mean that's the career trajectory of Kenny Omega. That's when he was at his all-time high, and that's my favorite incarnation of Bullet Club, believe it or not. So but he could pick things back up and be the quote-unquote best bout machine again. So we never know, man. We'll see. All right, my number 9. I don't know if you know this, Brandon, but this guy, he just won the greatest wrestling match ever. Yep. I had to go with the Legend Killer theme. I dig it. I'm going Randy Orton, man. One of the best to ever do it. Accomplished so much. And he's only 40 years old, guys. He's only 40. I was just watching last night and a little bit earlier today the series of matches he had with Christian in 2011. Just good stuff. Good-ish. And, there are times where, he's like, oh, he's bored, he phones it in, yada, yada, yada. But then, even when he does phone it in, he's still better than the rest. Yeah. Hell of a career. The Legend Killer gimmick was great. It's coming back now in 2020 with the stuff he's done with Edge and Christian as of late. And, Randy, he said he wants to do this until he's 50. I think he does have a lot more great moments in him. Plus, I know he's not going to top the greatest wrestling match ever, but he's going to come close.
Randy Orton's one of those guys that when he first came into the business was when I first started watching wrestling in those early 2000s. So I do have a soft spot for that era of Randy Orton. But then when I came back to wrestling, I saw Randy wasn't too enthused of what I've seen, and that's why on the podcast for at least, let's just say, dating back to 2019, because 2020 I've been fairly, I've praised him on a pretty regular basis thus far. So Randy, I just never really liked him all that much. Like, he never really got me too excited. Like, for Jeff Hardy, I completely understand why people like Jeff Hardy. He is colorful and charismatic and everything like that. And then Randy, he's just a guy that I never really understood of why people liked him so much. Like, yeah, he's a good-looking dude. He has the family lineage. Occasionally, he can have a decent wrestling match. Maybe not the greatest wrestling match of all time, but early Randy Orton, I'm okay with. Later Randy Orton, not so much.
I think you hold a gripe with him because of SummerSlam 2013. I think that's why.
I mean, I think it's more Triple. Maybe that's the reason Triple H is on my honorable mentions list, is because he screwed over Dana Bryan. It's more Triple H I'm mad at than Randy Orton.
Okay. All right, Brandon. Well, who's your number 9, bud?
Well, my number 9, as I kind of hinted at, maybe is going to have Phillip having another heart attack, because if you remember our top 10 wrestling matches, I put The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 25 as my number 9, mainly because I didn't watch it live, and I understand how great of a match it is, just I don't have a connection like the other matches on the list. But my number 9 is going to be Chris Jericho.
Oh, God. Oh, God. I'm having a heart attack, I think.
I warned you.
How are you going to do that to Le Champion? Oh, Jesus. Explain.
Now, it was a late edit, almost to before we started recording. I had Eddie Guerrero in this position, but then I thought about it. I was like, oh, Chris Jericho, he's done a lot more stuff that I've seen. I've enjoyed a lot of the stuff I've seen from him, especially the last 5 years. I could possibly, if I had more time looking over the list, I could move him up. Probably not cracking the top 5, but I definitely have enjoyed what I've seen from Chris Jericho. The reincarnations of everything. I know Phillip is going to put him a little higher on the list, so we'll hear his thoughts on Chris Jericho in total, but big fan of everything, even dating back to the WCW stuff and the New Japan stuff and the Super Juniors. Just probably should have been higher on my list, I'll be honest, but Chris Jericho, not the biggest fan. I don't have that personal moment connection that I have in my mind of a great Chris Jericho moment like some of the other guys on this list. So that's why he doesn't make it as high as top 5 for me. But fantastic wrestler, one of the greatest of all time. Still, I'm not gonna. I would probably put him in the top 30, 25. Probably not top 20 wrestlers, but he's knocking on the door.
I'm not going to get into my Jericho thoughts because, he is higher on my list and we have to hurry up. The ambulance is on its way. Jesus, I'm having convulsions in my chest. Oh, God. Where are we at? Number 8. My number 8, he was also in the greatest wrestling match ever. You think you know me? The Rated R Superstar. WWE Hall of Famer. Shout out to Adam Copeland, Edge. It was at a time in my life when I was a young wrestling fan, and I was the generic, I like the good guys but hate the bad guys. Guys, let me tell you something. I would go to school with my friends, talked about Raw. Like, you see what Edge did? I'm like, oh yeah, I hate that guy. Secretly inside, oh God, I love Edge. I love Orton. That's where that resonates from. That's why I like heels better. That's probably why I'm a heel in real life. JK, I'm a nice guy. No, but I loved Edge, the Rated R Superstar, the live sex celebration with Lita, his feud with Cena, that feud with The Undertaker spanning it from 2007 to 2009, and the stuff with Jeff Hardy, and brief encounters with CM Punk and the Rated R RKO, and all that stuff, man, and spanning until when he officially retired. I love Edge. He's one of the best. Like John Cena said, he's the Einstein of the business. Just a great character, the master manipulator, the ultimate opportunist. And nobody's ever been introduced better than when Tony Chimble cracks his voice to say the Rated R Superstar. So yeah, that's where I have Edge. Number 8.
Once again, another wrestler that a lot of his prime was in those later 2000s, so I didn't really watch that era. Obviously, I watched the live sex celebration because fantastic segment. Obviously, my mother loves Edge. Maybe Edge is her number one wrestler of all time. So got to give some kudos to Edge on that one. But once again, I mean, I understand. I like him. Just he never really was that guy for me that I enjoyed to watch. And as you said, like for the most part, when I watched him, he was a heel, so I never liked him all that much. But well, hopefully he can come back, and I've enjoyed the little stuff that he's done in these first few months of his comeback.
Absolutely, man. So, who do you have at 8?
Well, my number 8 might be a little high on the list. I have the first woman that any of us has picked. I don't know if you have any women on your list, Philip.
Okay. I see you, progressive. I see you.
She might be the first woman on my list, but she's not the only woman on my list. I'm going at number 8, the man, Becky Lynch. I know she might not have had a full career like a Chris Jericho or even a Kenny Omega, but I very much enjoyed her work dating back to 2018 when the man first started to come around, and the moment of her invading Raw and getting all bloody, Nia Jax once again being unsafe in the ring.
But it made for a hell of a moment.
It did make for a hell of a moment, but she also did ruin maybe one of the most anticipated matches I've ever felt going to a live show. I was so juiced and excited to watch Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey. That Survivor Series show overall I didn't care for, but that was the one match I wanted to see, and I wanted to see what they were going to do, not only from a show perspective and match quality, but from a booking perspective, because both of them are on fire, and I just love Becky. Hopefully she comes back. If she doesn't, she's still had a fantastic career. Number 8, maybe a little high just because it was kind of a short burst, but I thought that short burst that she had was fantastic.
Wow. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, by Bleacher Report. Sammy Guevara is suspended by AEW. He has to undergo sensitivity training after 2016 audio surfaces in which he said he wanted to rape Sasha Banks. Oh, God. Well, that just put a damper on things, didn't it?
Well, Philip, I thought we were going to talk about this later on the bullet cast.
It just popped up on my thing. I had never heard anything about this. Jesus. We will talk about it later. Oh my God. We're number 7, ladies and gentlemen. Number 7. Oh, by the way, Becky Lynch, hell of a rise. You know, she's all bloodied. Shout out Nia for making it happen. Really made her career. You know what I mean? The Irish war paint. That's what I like to call it. You know, the blood, reminiscent of Austin. You know, define as all hell. Loved everything about it. Number 7, I have to go with this man. Eddie Guerrero, Latino Heat. The career was amazing, you know. El Paso, Texas, WCW, the stuff in Japan. And of course, you know, he won the WWE Championship right here in the Bay Area at the Cow Palace in San Francisco. One of the coolest moments, you know, in Bay Area history and also just in wrestling history. Eddie died, unfortunately, way too soon and way too young. When I started watching wrestling, I was lucky enough to catch the last year of his life and career. I started watching in late 2004, and he dies in late 2005. So I was able to catch that, and it was awesome, man, watching Eddie do his thing, lying, cheating, and stealing, wrestling with my friends. I did the Eddie chair spot all the damn time. Eddie, absolutely one of the best, and he was just so damn good, bro. So it looked effortless every time he was out there. His matches with Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar, and getting in there with Batista and John Cena, the parking lot brawl that they had, and the Los Guerreros stuff, and teaming with Tajiri and messing with Benjamin and Haas. Just all that amazing stuff. He made it look effortless every time he was out there.
As I said, I put Eddie. He was in that number 9 spot, but then he got booted by Chris Jericho, and he made my honorable mentions list. I love Eddie. I saw a little bit more of his career than you did live. When I wasn't there, but I saw the build-up and was super excited for Eddie. I loved Eddie. I mean, even some of the stuff I've seen dating back to the Latino Heat days with Mamacita China, R.I.P. I thought that was all good stuff as well. Even thanks to the network, watching a lot more WCW Nitro stuff. That's the reason I think I took Jericho and put him in place of Eddie. I saw Eddie for a few years, but with Chris Jericho, I've seen him for such a long period of time and had a lot more memories and have seen a lot more of his work. But Eddie, soft spot. I mean, I love him. I need to get a Latino Heat shirt off of WWE Shop. They got the retro one with the roses on it. So that's going in my wish list very soon.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. All right, you're number 7, bro.
Well, my number 7 might be considered the greatest wrestler of all time. And I'm going to go with Ric Flair at number 7. Don't know if that's high, if Ric Flair is making an appearance on your list, Philip, but I very much enjoy his career as a whole. Obviously, I didn't see a lot of it. The only real portion of his career that I saw was the Evolution days, as I keep saying. Didn't watch the retirement and all that angles, all those angles that led up to his retirement to WWE. But I have great respect for Ric Flair. If somebody asks me, I would say Ric Flair is the greatest wrestler of all time. So I got to pay my respects to the man, the OG man, before the man came around, Becky Lynch. So Ric Flair, the GOAT, got to put him on the list somewhere.
Yeah, he's not on my list, and I know people are going to flip out when they hear that. Like I said, I based it on people who I grew up watching. Did I catch Flair? Yeah, I caught the last 4 years of the in-ring career, if you don't count the TNA stuff. But, I mean, the gold of what he did was in the 80s. I wasn't alive, so how can I really feel it? I mean, you can watch a Flair promo, and he's talking about how his gators cost more than your house, and you're loving it, and he's riding with the horsemen. But I mean, it's like I said, I base it off of guys who I grew up watching and I had a real connection with. So I'm sorry, but Flair is he the greatest of all time? Absolutely, 21 world championships. Don't believe that phony 16 record, but he just didn't make my list for the reasons of which I've presented. All right, now we're getting into it. Number 6. He's the franchise player. Big Match John Cena. I mean, I know people are going to be like, oh, you're such a corporate shill. Dude, yeah, probably. All these guys on my list are WWE boys, Cena, he's our generation's Hogan, man, and, he isn't a tool like Hogan. I mean, you look at the career trajectory, the guy that was in OVW, he was the last effing pick. He was going to get fired from the main roster. Stephanie heard him rapping on a bus. Dr. Thugonomics is born. That leads to his feud with JBL, becomes the WWE champion. And there were Super Cena years. There were. But you look at the 2010s. Like that match with Punk, 2011. That's when Cena really started to wrestle. Started getting down with the best of them, with the indie darlings, and he's had good matches with Punk and Bryan and KO and Rollins and Styles. So he's done jobs when they absolutely mattered. We're not going to talk about the Nexus stuff. But he's moved business forward when it needed to be. So shout out to Big Match John, one of the best to ever do it. Like I said, he's our generation Cena, and just a humble dude. Shout out John, and he follows me on Twitter. Sorry.
Humble brag. But I very much enjoy Dr. Thugonomics John Cena, even going into like 2006, 2007 as a young middle school lad. I still quite enjoyed John Cena, but then when I came back and we had Super Cena, maybe it was just me following the trend of being an internet smart mark, but I wasn't the biggest fan of Cena, but I definitely can respect John Cena, what he's done, especially in the later half of his career. Yes, he might not have, put over, everybody and made the next big star, but usually that's not what happens. Usually the next big star just kind of is picked, comes out of nowhere, and the guy before him doesn't really have anything to do with that guy. But I enjoyed the U.S. title run that he had, having fantastic matches with guys all over the place. And as I said, one of my favorite matches of all time is a John Cena match against Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam, but we're not going to talk about the ending. John Cena, love him. But don't tell anyone I said that.
I mean, no, we could talk about the ending. Daniel Bryan won, and that's all that happened, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Confetti came running down, and Triple H shook his hand, and that was it.
Yeah, exactly. So who's your number 6?
Well, my number 6 is very apropos that you picked John Cena, because maybe John Cena's greatest rival, and that would be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the great one. Once again, didn't see the Attitude Era in his peak, But I came in, we had Hollywood Rock, loved that stuff. I've told the story before. Young me, so excited to see the Rock concert for the first time, and then my stupid little brother has to eat a marble, and I missed the Rock concert because we have to go into the emergency room. When then they just tell him, you just gotta poop it out and chop it up and find the marble, even though we never did find that marble. So I don't know what happened to it.
It's still inside him.
It probably is still inside of him. But back to The Rock. Very enjoyable. Maybe the greatest promo of all time. I think he is a tad bit underrated when it comes to his wrestling ability. Fantastic athlete. But, I loved at least the first match and the first build up to that match with John Cena, WrestleMania 28. The 29 one, we all kind of saw what was coming. Rock had to do the favor back to John. But overall, The Rock, once again, one of the greatest of all time. Didn't see his prime in the Attitude Era, but what I did see, and especially in 2012, loved every bit of it.
Yes, Dwayne, the Hayward boy, born right at Kaiser. Shout out Dwayne, even though he won't claim us. I mean, he did once, at WrestleMania 31, which Brandon.
He only claims us if he's in this area.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it's Miami. It's the U for Miami University.
From Hayward, or Hawaii, and Miami, and then wherever else because he'll just like, oh, I love coming to this town. I love all you guys. So he's one of those guys. He'll just claim he's from everywhere.
Yeah, he'll be like Mick Foley in the Cheap Pop, right here in Cleveland, stuff like that. Dwayne, one of the greatest promos. If you smell all that great stuff, your Rudy Poo candied ass. He basically buried Billy Gunn. But my name's Billy with that promo, which is absolutely hilarious. I advise anybody to go watch it. In ring ability, he's kind of underrated for what he could do in the ring. I mean, a man his size doing a kip up, goddamn, pal. I'm not seeing Triple H do kip ups. Exactly. But shout out to Dwayne, one of the best to ever do it. Would I say he's the greatest promo of all time? I think maybe Flair might have him beat. I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see. A prime Ric Flair versus a prime Dwayne Johnson on the mic. Fantasy book in the damn territory. We don't know. All right, I guess this is the top 5 now, huh?
Top five.
Top 5. Do you think the Master of the 5 is in my top 5?
No.
No, he's not. I'm sorry. It's a man who was on your honorable mentions. So I just had to let Lemmy do his thing. It's the King of Kings, the Game, the Cerebral Assassin, Triple H. I mean, you look at this career, man. I was watching The Untold again from the Mick Foley rivalry in 2000, which was 20 years ago. Can't believe it. And you look at when he becomes the Game into that that badassery of that character, and I wasn't watching then, but in 2004 to I guess basically now. Watching all of his stuff, caught the late Evolution stuff and the heel run, and just Triple H being a badass, going to war with Randy Orton and Edge, and having the matches with John, and the stuff with Brock in the early part of the 2010s. And I appreciate the career that Triple H has had. It's one of the best. He's an in-ring general and literally one of the best to ever do it. And he's been in there with everybody. You look at it, you really look at it. Taker, Ultimate Warrior Hogan, Rock, Austin, Shawn, Punk, Bryan, Cena, Orton, Edge. His father-in-law, he's been in the ring with literally everyone. So that just shows, how long the Game has been around. And I mean, it's simple, guys. He was a student of the Game, then he became the Game itself. And plus, we all love NXT, and we have him to thank for it.
Yeah, shout out Papa Trips for giving us NXT. I put him on my honorable mentions. If he asked young Brandon 15 years ago, Triple H was probably high on his list, but I just felt as though there's a lot of other people that I've enjoyed a lot. Triple H, one of the best theme songs of all time. I mean, if you're a child, you obviously did the Triple H entrance anytime you took a sip of water. But I digress. He had fantastic matches as well. Promo-wise, really good. I think another thing is maybe when I was watching him, he was a little bit of a, well, I guess I just kind of backtrack on what I just said. But anyways, I very much enjoy Triple H's work. Yes, maybe he's kind of like the other old guys around who's stuck around 2, 5, 10 years too long. But the early stuff and the early 2010 stuff was really good. Yes, ain't so hot right now, but luckily he's helping the future kind of with NXT.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, NXT's great. Shout out Papa Trips. All right, we're in the top five. Brandon, who's your number 5?
Well, Philip, hopefully that ambulance is close by because you might suffer another mini heart attack. Because at number 5, I got Shawn Michaels.
Oh God! Oh God! Explain why.
Well, once again, it's one of those things that when I was not watching wrestling, that's when Shawn Michaels really had his career renaissance and having all those matches, you know, the Ric Flair matches, the Undertaker matches. But as a kid, when I saw Shawn Michaels come back, I mean, damn, that Survivor Series 2002 VHS tape, first ever Elimination Chamber, Shawn Michaels comes back wearing those boo-boo brown pants, which luckily have never seen the light of day since then. I wore out that VHS tape, watched it so many times, and then now that I've been able to watch much older things and really grasp and how great Shawn Michaels is, fantastic wrestler, maybe one of the best in-ring wrestlers of all time. I think, once again, it kind of comes down to I don't have a lot of sentimental memories with Shawn Michaels. That's why he's not top 1 to 3 like the other guys on my list, but I could definitely respect and acknowledge how great of a wrestler he is, and the stuff that I did see live, I loved every bit of it.
Gee, the ambulance has been canceled. Oh God. Yeah.
In the coroner's office.
I might have to. Like, if anything happens to me, Brandon, you have to carry this on. This is my legacy. I'm not gonna get into Sean because he's much higher on my list. Yeah, so I guess we're just going to move on to number 4. Ladies and gentlemen, he's phenomenal. No pun intended. And Brandon, which theme song do you think I'm about to play?
TNA.
New Japan, baby! And you people thought I hated New Japan. This theme song is dope. It really is. I dig it. I dig it. Gotta let the beat drop. The phenomenal AJ Styles. I remember when I turned on TNA. It was like, I mean, it had been 2006, 2007. AJ Styles hit a Fosbury flop. That's why I'm so fond of the move. I'm like, oh my god, what the hell was that? I was hooked on TNA for quite some time. I've said at times in my life I've favored it over WWE. AJ Styles, the staple. He was the John Cena of that place. And then he didn't shed a tear when he left TNA. Spent 12 years there. Went to New Japan. Tore it up for 2 years and cried when he left there. Went to WWE. Went to the biggest game in town. Came in, made an impact. Had some good matches with Le Champion. Went on to have that feud with John Cena. Beat the face that runs the place. And beat the former Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley, to become the WWE champion. And then, you know, another reign with it. Had a plus year-long reign. Has had good matches with Daniel Bryan. Just became the Intercontinental Champion. Has been a United States champion. Had a really good match with Shane McMahon at WrestleMania 33 in the opener. You know, so, I mean, AJ's done so much great stuff, man. Leader of the Bullet Club. Face of TNA. The WWE champion. The only man in history to hold the NWA, TNA, IWGP, and WWE heavyweight titles. And also, he's one of 2 men to wrestle at Wrestle Kingdom, or WrestleMania appear, I should say, at Wrestle Kingdom, WrestleMania, Battle of Los Angeles, TNA Slammiversary, and it's another one. I can't think of it. It's another one. It's one of the big 5. I can't think of it. But the point is, AJ, one of the best careers in the history of the business.
Yeah, as I said, I probably should have put AJ on my honorable mentions list. AJ, I didn't see too much of him back in TNA. I saw kind of the later half. I saw the Claire Lynch storyline. I mean, come on. Just fantastic work there by TNA on that one. But New Japan, I've said it. AJ Styles Bullet Club is my favorite version of the Bullet Club, and kind of another reason why I got into New Japan in the first place, because AJ came over there. They had the GFW thing, and I watched Wrestle Kingdom for the first time and been hooked ever since. I love AJ. His stuff in WWE, yes, it's been really good. Definitely not prime AJ. I think if I was watching more of his TNA stuff and really could grasp what he was doing and was a fan of him during that time, maybe he would have been a lot higher on my list, but there was just other people that I had a much deeper connection with.
Absolutely. That other event was Ring of Honor's Final Battle. That was it. Only 2 men of the wrestler appeared at those shows, and AJ's one of them. So shout out to the phenomenal one, Brandon. Who you got at number 4, man?
Well, you got AJ Styles at your number 4. I also got AJ at number 4, but not AJ Styles. My girl AJ Lee is my number 4 favorite wrestler. Absolutely loved AJ back in the day. I mean, come on. There's 2 people on this list that made me read a book. I think those 2 books are the only books I've really read in forever. So that's very high praise that AJ was able to make me read her book. A little disappointing, I will say, but I digress. I loved AJ. I loved the storyline with her, CM Punk, and Daniel Bryan, which still they're coming. They're almost on. They're almost there. But anyways, loved AJ, and she was definitely one of those pre-women's revolution wrestlers. While the Divas was running wild, but I think she was still a really good wrestler. And I named my cat after her, so obviously she has to be on here.
Wow. As I get a text message, that's my chiropractor. Jesus. AJ Lee. I was fond of her career, man. I really was. And is she even in my top 10 women's list? Let me look at that list real quick. Oh, there's an open spot. She may crack it. We should probably do that one day. Top 10 one. Yeah, I think we'll do that too. Yeah, but she was interesting. She was crazy. Kane, Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, Dolph Ziggler, John Cena.
CM Punk does dig crazy chicks.
He does dig crazy chicks. I mean, she made her way around the locker room. It's crazy. It was like 2012, 2013, and that was quote unquote okay, but it wouldn't be okay now with the times we're in. But yeah, AJ Lee, she had an interesting career. Feud with Paige, Divas Championships, lost it to Nikki. Nikki shattered her record to become the longest reigning Divas Champion of all time.
Definitely not political in any which way.
Don't walk out on the company.
Once again, I'm very happy that I was able to see the last 2 matches of AJ Lee's career. One of the highlights of my wrestling viewing.
There you go. Yeah. I saw AJ Lee live once. Hell in a Cell 2014. I think she wrestled Paige, and it was goodish, pal. It was goodish. I liked it. Liked it a lot. Speaking of AJ and walking out of the company, my number 3 is her husband, who also walked out on the company famously. It is the Second City Saint, the voice of the voiceless. He's the cult of personality, CM Punk, Phillip Brooks. He's back with the WWE now because he works for Backstage. But let me tell you, man, I've been a Punk guy since the ECW days of WWE's terrible reincarnation. I mean, some stuff was good. Let's not be wrong. But 2008, June 30th, he becomes the World Heavyweight Champion, cashes in on Edge. And he goes in that feud with Jeff Hardy and all this stuff, and he's kind of floating, becomes the leader of the Straight Edge Society, a cult-like Jesus figure in WWE, and then becomes the leader of the New Nexus and starts feuding with Randy Orton, and then we get to the John Cena stuff, the pipe bomb heard around the world, Summer of Punk. We move into 2012. He's champion all the way up until 2013. Drops it to The Rock. He did a lot of good stuff back then. Going over Cena, the majority of their matches they had together, did the job for The Rock. Had a very underrated wrestling match at WrestleMania with The Undertaker. Probably the best match on that card, I might say. Rock and Cena 2 was good, but the storytelling in which Taker and Punk told was very good. And then he leaves, comes back, has a really good match with Le Champion at Payback 2013, feuds with Brock Lesnar, and all this other stuff. So, I mean, CM Punk, he made me feel something. He's probably my generation. He's probably our generation's Austin. We don't know. But he was pretty damn good. Love CM Punk. The UFC didn't work out. You're back with the WWE on Backstage. If you want to lace him up again, do it. Just do it. Sean came back. Edge has come back. Just do it, please. Please just do it. Christian came back. Punk, I need you. I need you to lace him up one more time. In front of a crowd, though. None of this no audience stuff. I need that pop.
Well, Philip, finally we agree upon something, because CM Punk is also my number 3 wrestler on my list. Maybe the reason why I'm even watching wrestling to this day, because I went over to my friend's house, 2011 Royal Rumble, I believe, and he was on there, and I think it's the match where he's like talking and, being CM Punk throughout the entirety of the early stage of the Royal Rumble, and I'm like, who's this guy? This guy's kind of cool. So then I started watching wrestling a little bit more, and then CM Punk was definitely my favorite wrestler when I started to get back into wrestling, and then he drops the pipe bomb, fantastic match, and then the Summer of Punk and everything like that, for better or for worse, what happened, but definitely fell in love with CM Punk. I love everything he did, but he was definitely my favorite wrestler when I came back, and that's one of the main reasons why he's so high on my list. And even now that I've seen some of his stuff in ROH and the earlier like ECW Money in the Bank type stuff, I still haven't really watched that to its fullest. But overall, CM Punk, love him. Kind of disappointed that I was never able to see him wrestle. I only saw him once live in person at a Raw. It was the go home show before the Royal Rumble when he lost to The Rock. But overall, fantastic character. Maybe the greatest promo from in a wrestler perspective since The Rock or Stone Cold. Overall, great talent.
Yeah, man, and the people power stuff, did Bearing, John Laurinaitis. I did see Punk live once. It was at a Raw at the Oracle. He was the Intercontinental Champion, and Punk did great stuff, man. I miss Phillip Brooks in the ring. I do. Ooh. I guess this is where we go to number 2.
That's what comes before number 3.
I guess, in public school system, you don't know what kind of education, we've gotten. All right, ladies and gentlemen, he's a man who should be much higher on lists for reasons, and here we go. Chris Jericho, Le Champion, all that good stuff. Listen, the reason why he's my number 2, it's not the list. I mean, it solidified his place. Le Champion solidified his place too. That 2008 feud with Shawn Michaels, they were supposed to have one match, and they had like an 8-month storyline. Alright? He puts on the suit and tie. Nick Bockwinkel, the Jace character, starts calling fans hypocrites and parasites. He tells that story of how, he's at MSG in the elevator, and this man and his son trying to get his autograph, and he's just stonewall, looking at the wall, but just not breaking character, commitment to kayfabe, and during that era of his career. I love that Chris Jericho. It was different. I had never seen anything like it. Hell, I was going around calling people parasites and hypocrites when I was a young Philip. You fast forward to the list, constant reinvention. The light up jacket had maybe kind of run its course a little bit, started adopting the scarves, and it was simple. You just made the list. Like, that was hilarious. It was like, what? You got a piece of paper over. That was funny. And then you go into what he's done. The Painmaker gimmick in New Japan, becoming more of a vicious, grumpy old man, Chris Jericho. When he goes to AEW, and of course, like I keep saying, becomes Le Champion, becomes the first champion in the company's history. Constant reinvention. Like JR said, he's the reverend of reinvention. Like, nobody can stay on top and constantly be in the conversation for that long. Constant ability to evolve and change with the times. He's like a caterpillar,
As I said, I very much enjoy Chris Jericho's work, and as I've said multiple times on this podcast, that 2008 I wasn't watching at the time. I think I kind of realized why I maybe didn't put Chris Jericho as high, because when I was watching earlier on, that was kind of that awkward like early 2000s phase where it was past his original push, and then Jericho was kind of in and out with the company, and he wasn't there all that often. And then he comes back in 2008, whatever, and then he really has a great feud with Shawn Michaels. Didn't watch that. He comes back in 2012, and then I don't even know the light bright jacket, which with CM Punk, and I thought that feud was kind of a bust. I thought it could have been so much better, but then as we evolve into today's Jericho, he's done so many different things. Maybe kind of going on the era of too much comedy, but when you get a little bit older, you got to rely a little more on your character than your physicality and your in-ring stuff. But overall, Chris Jericho, fantastic. I don't have the same connection with him, I think, as you do, Philip. So that's why he's a little high on your list.
Yeah, man. I mean, I dig him. I dig him, and shout out to the plug that got me to chill with him for like an hour and a half. It's just a genuinely nice guy, man. Just a good dude. Shout out. I know people are gonna be like, I thought Cody would have been on your list. Hey, you never know, man. You never know. Could be my number 11. You don't know. But yeah, I mean, Jericho, just genuinely nice guy, just charismatic as all hell, and just constantly at the helm of the conversation in the last couple of years when we talk about what's good and what's different in pro wrestling. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Oh wait, no, you're number 2, right?
Yeah, I need to do my number 2, Philip.
I apologize.
So once we do our number 2s, I think everyone will probably figure out who our number 1s are, because now my number 2 is my boy D-Bry, Daniel Bryan. As I've said multiple times, I love me some Daniel Bryan. When he was getting over the yes chants and all that stuff. I mean, it even started after WrestleMania 28 when he got kicked in the head by Sheamus because of AJ Lee kissing him. So once again, AJ just destroying everything around her. But I love Daniel Bryan, the in-ring stuff, absolutely fantastic. I think Daniel Bryan, because the guy on my list, I love him, but I never really watched a lot of his work. Daniel Bryan was kind of the one guy that I connected to, and I just loved everything about him, and I wanted him to win so much. And then being the internet smart fan that I am, I was like, oh god, he's so great, but the company's not going to get behind him. And then they kept doing those false finishes and over and over again, which kind of led into my speculation, and then they kind of proved it. And then in the end, he finally gets the win at WrestleMania. Loved it. The streak ending was definitely put a damper on Daniel Bryan's win. And then the unfortunate of him having to retire and his injuries, but definitely that 2012 to 2014 Daniel Bryan is maybe my favorite wrestling moment in my fandom, just being a fan of one person.
Wow. I thought he would have been your number 1, but I get it. I was a fan of D-Bry. I remember when he won at WrestleMania 30 after Taker's loss, and it was a feel good moment, man. You did the yes, all that stuff. I've seen Daniel Bryan live. I saw him wrestle Wade Barrett at the Civic Center in Pensacola, Florida, at a house show for the Intercontinental title. They went like 17 minutes. It's one of the best matches I've ever seen. Daniel Bryan, hell of a character, man. One of the best that's ever do it. The American Dragon. He got to rise again at WrestleMania 34, coming full circle to the place where he had his probably biggest moment, and he's come back and the Planet's champion, the eco-friendly hemp championship, and all that stuff. Like, just really underrated talker too. When he first debuted, they made a note that he doesn't have any personality. One of the most charismatic guys in the locker room. One of the charismatic guys in the history of the WWE.
Also, Philip, he's the other person that made me read a book. Fantastic read, by the way. I would definitely recommend you if you haven't listened or read Daniel Bryan's book. But also, you'll enjoy this. Probably the greatest house show match I've ever seen was Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton in a hardcore match at Oracle in Oakland.
It's about time, man. I've been waiting for you to finally. I like this 2020 Brandon praising Randy Orton. I like it a lot. I do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is number 1. He is the showstopper, the main event, the icon, Mr. WrestleMania, Mr. Hall of Fame, the Heartbreak Kid. He sang his own goddamn theme song. Shout out to Shawn Michaels. I've said it time and time again. 25, WrestleMania, him and Take, favorite match of all time. Shawn Michaels wasn't just the greatest in-ring performer in the 90s, probably the greatest in-ring performer in the history of the business. You look at SummerSlam 92, the match with the model Rick Martel. His involvement with Sensational Sherry, gets rid of Marty Jannetty, all that stuff, and then you look at WrestleMania 10, the ladder match with Razor Ramon. Even though some people might say SummerSlam 95 ladder match might have been better. WrestleMania 10, no, not WrestleMania 10, WrestleMania 12, the Boyhood Dream comes true, and Brandon thinks it's overrated, but it's one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time. Beats Bret Hart in OT to become the WWE champion. He becomes a degenerate with Triple H, and Degeneration X is born. He has to take a 4-year layoff because of his back. He comes back in SummerSlam 2002 or Survivor Series 2002. Does all this stuff with Triple H, wins the world title again, and then has an 8-year career renaissance, having matches with Randy Orton and, reforming DX multiple times, has that feud with John Cena for the WWE title, has that hour-long match on April 23rd, 2007 on Raw in London. And, of course, we get into the stuff with Ric Flair. He retires the greatest of all time. And then, of course, the stuff with Taker at the 2 WrestleManias, and his storybook career was over at WrestleMania 26. Shawn has said it best like this. He painted a picture for 30 years, and it was finally done after his retirement. He got to sit back and look at it and wow, I did a pretty damn good job. So that's why he's my favorite, man. I was captivated. I was drawn to him. My finisher when I wrestled in my living room was a super kick, nothing else. Shawn's the GOAT, man, to me, and to a lot of other people. Shout out Jimbo. He and I, we agree on this one. The best to ever do it.
Now, Shawn Michaels was my number 5 on the list, but as I said, I agree and will say that he is one of the best, maybe the best wrestler of all time. Had a fantastic career just in 2 different chapters, or even maybe 3 different chapters. The tag team, being the guy in WWF, and then coming back from that back injury. Shawn Michaels has done just fantastic stuff. I even kind of forgot those mid-2000s match that he had with Kurt Angle and John Cena at WrestleMania. That stuff was fantastic as well. And then obviously the end, probably the best ending to a career anyone could ever have, if we're just going to ignore the Blood Money show that he went to. But yeah, Shawn Michaels, just fantastic performer all the way around. And I'm not going to disagree with you that he should be number 1 on somebody's list.
Yes. All right, Brandon, let me guess. Is this guy your number 1? Am I right? Am I?
No, it was Chris Masters. Come on, Phillip.
Really? The masterpiece, I interviewed Chris Masters once. Hell of a guy. He was sedated as all hell, but a hell of a guy.
Hey, brother, you got to make the town sometimes. You got to relax those muscles.
Got to power through, get you some of whatever Gino Hernandez was doing. Hey-o!
But no, of course, Stone Cold is my number 1. Just absolutely fantastic. Maybe the greatest draw of all time. Yes, I might not have seen him live in person when he was during his peak, but I was watching wrestling when he was doing the GM, the sheriff gimmick, and I love Stone Cold. Being a kid, I kind of wanted to watch wrestling when I was 4, 5 years old, because I knew of wrestling. I knew how hot it was, but just my parents wouldn't allow me because it was the Attitude Era, and there was some stuff that maybe a 4-year-old shouldn't have been watching. But watching him in the early 2000s, doing stuff with Eric Bischoff, drinking beer right around the ATV, I loved all that stuff. And now that I've been able to go back and watch, and because of the quarantine, I've been trying to get back on my Raw Attitude Era grind, and I've been watching a lot of Raws from post Stone Cold winning the championship at WrestleMania 14. Been watching a lot of 98 Raws, and just seeing how over and how great of a promo and stuff Stone Cold is just made me love him even more. And there's a lot of stuff that, obviously they'll replay the iconic stuff that he did, but then just watching the week-to-week stuff and just the promos and everything he was cutting, everything just was fire. And I think that's the reason why he was my number 1, is because I've been watching a lot more of his stuff lately.
What? I mean, you look at it, man. I mean, I have some of his beer in my fridge. Austin on the honorable mentions, but like I said, didn't grow up watching him. I would kill to, like, if I was born like 10 or 15, 16 years earlier to really experience the Attitude Era and go to shows when they were out here and just to be a part of that pop, because he has the best pop in the history of the business, and he drew more money than anybody. Drew more money than Bruno, and Bruno sold out the Garden like 200 times. Drew more money than Hogan. Drew more money than his adversary Rock at the time. He's drawn more money than Cena. You know, like, and the pop is massive. Anytime. It could be the worst Raw, and WWE's put out quite a few of them. You know, just you don't even have to. I mean, you could advertise them to get the numbers up, sure, but just send them out there. Psst, the glass breaks, everything cuts a promo, stuns a couple people, you go home happy. And that's what a lot of those Raws were from the Attitude Era. You know, they'd save him for the last segment. He's out there having a match or something, stuns a couple guys. You know, the guy throws him the beers and he clanks them, and then you go home happy. That's Austin for you. Underrated in the ring too. And you look at the career of not just Stone Cold, but you go to the stuff in ECW when he was superstar Steve Austin, just cutting promos and making fun of Eric Bischoff, and go to WCW when he's stunning Steve and the Hollywood Blondes with Brian Pillman, and those matches with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, like Clash of Champions August '94. That's one of the best matches I've ever seen. One of my favorite Steve Austin matches when he's wrestling Ricky for the United States title. He's a WCW television champion, just stuff like that. And you look at what he's done in the Attitude Era, of course, the Austin 316, King of the Ring, the stuff with Bret Hart, Canadian Stampede, him being a part of that awesome moment, and the stuff with The Rock, and the Mr. McMahon character, really elevating McMahon on television, and McMahon did the same for Austin. Just, honestly, like I said, the biggest draw, the biggest box office draw in the history of professional wrestling. There's no argument.
And even to this day, Stone Cold is still Stone Cold. And as you said, doesn't matter when or where he comes out, it's going to be crazy. And it was kind of a shame that on 316 Day there was nobody in the crowd. But Stone Cold will be 70 years old, the glass will shatter, and he comes out in a moped, and he'll still have the crowd in the palm of his hands, and the roof will blow off the place.
Yeah, and another thing, I've said this on the show before, I think the reason why Austin's returns always work so well, he still looks the same. Legit looks the same. Like, that's why his nostalgia still works. I mean, like, when Hunter and Sean come out there, yeah, okay, yeah, DX, but, you know, they're bald now. And, you know, Rock comes out there, you know, he's not The Rock from 98. His hair's gone, he's buffer, he has this weird other bull tattoo on his arm that replaced the original Brahma bull tattoo. You know, like, the New Age Outlaws come out there, okay, Billy kind of still looks the same, Road Dogg, and it was a little heavier and older age, I get it, you know, but Austin, his nostalgia has always worked for him, because he legit still looks the same. It's the same facial hair, still bald, still looks pretty fit, you know, so yeah, that's why it's worked.
And he's a smart businessman, and he knows that if he comes out and does an appearance every couple months, that the pop will slowly diminish, and we only see Stone Cold like maybe once every few years on a Raw. So yes, he might be all over your podcast feed and all over social media, but when he comes back for an appearance on Raw, it's always a really big deal, and he's a smart guy in that aspect.
Absolutely, you know, is he going to come back and have a match? No, like, he's done. One of the few guys that's actually stayed away. You know, hell, he might be the only guy.
And he never really had a ceremony, so it just kind of happened, which kind of sucks. I really wanted Stone Cold and CM Punk to have that feud. I mean, if you haven't seen the promo that they had between each other for the WWE video game with Jim Ross in the middle of it, fantastic stuff by those two guys.
Yeah, I remember that. That was really good-ish. That would have been great if he had come back, and, you know, like, Punk was at that level to where they could have worked around whatever injuries and stuff, or walk and brawl, smoke and mirrors, all that stuff, you know. And Austin, badass, just a complete badass. Owen dropped him on his head. He walked out with the Intercontinental title. Legit walked out. You know, King of the Ring tournament. He like had to leave the hospital, go get staples, stitches, whatever. Comes back and wins and cuts that promo in Milwaukee, '96. You know, just Austin, badass, man. Just complete badass. You know. I mean, we've all like had water, sodas, whatever, have done the whole, like, we're chugging beer stuff. Hell, some of us as adults may have actually chugged beer. We don't know. And you've dropped a stunner on your friend or brother or whatever, so yeah, man. Well, just one of the best to ever do it.
Of course he is. And the greatest merch of all time as well.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. Austin 316. So simple. Sold a hell of a lot of shirts.
And still selling a whole hell of a lot of shirts.
Absolutely. Well, I think that is going to do it for our top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time. I'm looking at my list. I have quite a few lists here. I think we may do another one of these. Maybe theme songs. I don't know. Maybe finish. Yeah. I think we can do finishers. I think that'd be the next one. Top 10 finishers
Stunner,
of all time.
number 1. There you go. We're done.
No. We have to have a list. Come on now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to take care of Brandon and myself. Thursday, we will be back for the Bulletcast recap Raw, SmackDown, AEW, and all of these allegations that are going on right now. Jesus, this is I hope this opens your eyes to quite a few of your quote-unquote favorite wrestlers. Matt Riddle. All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay clean, stay safe, stay strong, stay quarantined.
This has been the Bulletcast. Thank you for listening.